Well, hello, everybody. Hello, Bettina. How are you doing today?
Hi, Eric. Hi, everyone. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good, actually. Um, I was just telling you before we went on air that I've got dress rehearsal for our play tonight, and the play is tomorrow, and we're doing it again in February. So I'm sort of in rehearsal mode and just practicing last minute stuff and trying to anchor the new blocking in my body so that I don't go up on stage and start doing some old stuff that we're not doing anymore as far as movements.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, it's great. I got on the line with you today, and I could just sense your up energy as a result of you having your rehearsal last night, rehearsal tonight, and going on stage tomorrow. It's just awesome. I know that we, in a way, it's kind of funny how we share this for you. Something that you've been really involved in and really putting a lot of effort into is this choir and your singing, and running it and so on. And then you have like these big dates and these weekends where you guys are putting on productions. And I feel like such a kinship with you because when I feel in when I have baseball or when I have sports, and the you get to a big game or you get to the playoffs, and it's just you're literally lit up for a couple days, and you can't wait to get on stage. And for me, for pitching, I can't wait to get on the mound, and it just and it's just such a wonderful feeling. And I just wish everybody had something like that, or carved out enough room in their life to um, do something that they love, like that, and to put a lot of effort into it, and then to show it off. And just how much energy that fills you with in the half week before and the half week after is just glorious. It's a wonderful life.
Yeah, it's really interesting how that kind of thing can really lift your spirits. I was actually reading recently online different reports about studies that have shown the benefits of singing in a choir or a group. And I knew there were benefits, but I was kind of amazed at some of the benefits that they have actually done studies on and have proven that the changes that it can and the effect it can have on your body, like lowering your cortisol, which is a huge thing
Mm.
for women, especially at a certain age. Um, it increases your endorphins, which is that happy uh,
Yeah.
chemical or whatever it is in your body. And, um, I mean, I can't even remember all the benefits. Uh, and I really feel that that's true. I think it can help with depression. And we have one woman in our weekly choir who had a lung transplant, and her lung capacity has improved over the months that she's been singing in the choir.
That makes sense.
That sense of community, that whole, you really become in tune with the other people in
Mm.
your choir group after you've been singing for a while. I noticed the difference between um, the choir that I started in and then a newer choir hasn't quite hit their stride yet, and I can see those subtle differences in um, sound and everything about it. So it's really interesting, and I think there are lots of other things out there that have those same effects, and I think we all need to have something like that in our lives to offset the stress and the work and the busyness that we get caught up in. So I
Yeah.
highly recommend it.
Yeah.
It's very therapeutic.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I think you highlight something that's really important that we don't often single out as being such an incredible human experience. And that's when we do something in unison with other people. And, it really hit me when you said, how, you get into this choir group and you meet all these people, and some people you might know from previous, and some people are new. And then you get together and you have your own, whatever it is. If you're on a sports team, it's 5 or 15 or 50, or choir, approximately the same numbers, and you get together and you work together and you get in that unison. And when you feel like you're in harmony with a group of people, I mean, that is so pleasurable. And it's really rewarding to the soul in some way without even having to speak to it, to even speak to the soul. And just some ideas I was thinking about as you were talking was like, that choir. And that's why I'm sure it's no coincidence that's why everybody sings together in church, or people do prayer group together, or when you do yoga and at the end of yoga you meditate together. Having a group therapy, the moment of silence, for honoring, oftentimes war combatants, or somebody who's passed, and or a sports team. And it's just, to find those areas of life. And I'm sure there's others where you get together with a group of people and you really feel in harmony when you chant the Om, or when you're singing a psalm, or when you're praying, or when you're being reverent and following a guided meditation. Boy, it's just it's you can almost feel your soul being filled up and feeling that connection with other people. And it's so powerful. And it's no wonder, you know, we don't know for sure whatever it is that we're individuals, but we're also part of a collective. And this feeling of oneness and connection with other people, it's really palpable, especially in those moments. And it's really pleasant and peaceful.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. It's, it's got to have something to do with that common intention, that common um, like, or whatever it is, that common interest that we have. Um, but I do feel in sync with the people in my choir in general. The show choir, it's then just another level of being in sync and community, because we spend that much more time together, and we practice more because we are doing shows, and we get to know each other better. And I think anything done in community like that, even, the Course in Miracles group that I belong to, it has a much more profound effect, and has had a more profound effect on me and my growth, because I'm in community as I'm going
Yeah.
through the process and learning and growing and sharing. And I have that support of people who are loving and kind and create that safe environment for me to experience. So I, I think community, even for introverts, community is maybe even more important, because as introverts, especially us fives, we tend to feel disconnected a lot of times, and like we don't belong. And so to find a community where we feel safe enough to be ourselves is really important. And um, and I think it really feeds our soul to be in that space, and to be connected and enjoying with other people in a common interest or idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. Um, yeah, it's fantastic when you're working in cohesion, with other people. It just feels right.
Yeah.
But we wanted to talk on today's show, and you brought something excellent before the show, and something that I felt that was really, you were going on, and it was hitting me with salient points as you're going through. And we wanted to talk a little bit today about judgment, or more in particular, self-judgment, and recognizing patterns that we are bringing forward with us from a previous time, all the way back to childhood, or all the way back to something that just happened a few days ago. And we bring forward and we embed patterns in ourselves. And it's really important to catch these patterns when we start limiting our experience and subsequently our confidence as we interact with the world. And I'll hand it over to you because you were right on it.
Okay, so um, as you know, and probably anybody who watches this show, I'm on a constant journey, and I am always growing and learning. And I'm sure I still have thousands of miles to go on this one step at a time journey. But um, I there's certain issues I've had that I haven't been able to figure out, and I'm well aware of, as much as I want to tackle each issue as it arises, there are some that elude me. And one of them has been this clenching every night in my sleep.
Hmm.
And as of late, it has been getting worse. So it's not that the problem is getting worse, I believe. And I read something by Pima Chodron earlier today that kind of, I kind of shook my head and went, yes, yes, I get that. I get that space, being in that space. And I'll get to that in a minute. But, um, so I've been doing this clenching and it's been getting worse. And I feel like it is at a point now where it no longer wants to be pushed aside and resisted and ignored and denied. And so it's getting stronger. And it's that little toddler that's poking, 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 mummy, 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 driving me crazy. And it's not that I haven't been trying to see, but there's something in me that's also uh, overriding that and resisting. And over the past couple of days, I started to realize that the clenching started when Peter and I got together, which is not a bad thing, folks. um, it's like it's not about Peter. But
Hmm.
his coming into my life was the sort of catalyst to me facing this part of myself, and that is, um, I've had some rough times in my life. My first marriage was rough, um, and growing up, I had my struggles, but
And your first spouse died?
my first husband passed away, and I raised my two kids alone, so that was a bit of a struggle.
A bit.
Just a bit. um, it's funny because I do when I talk about that, I talk about it like that's just what you do. It's not a big deal. It's not one of those things I've ever. I mean, not that I've never gone into that little victim place, but that's never seemed one that that I went into victim about. But
a topic
there you
for
go.
a topic for 16 shows in a row at some point.
Yes, I'm sure. Um, but what I realized was when I met Peter and Peter came into my life, I was ready. He was ready. It was a perfect match. The universe knew exactly what it was doing. Universe, God, whatever you want to call it, knew exactly what it was doing when it sort of collided us in this crazy life and brought us together. And I was so happy. And I can remember saying, I finally have the amazing life that I've always wanted. But what I realized the other day was there was a sense of looming for the other shoe to drop. It's that whole idea that, oh, sure, you're happy, but there's going to be some price to pay. There's going to be some punishment for being so damn happy,
Hmm.
because no one gets to be that happy without paying a price. And I realized that's a belief that came along, as I was growing up, that um, I believed that if I went out and I had fun, I would have to pay a price when I got home. It's like when you go on holidays, when you're working at a 9 to 5 job and you go on holidays, and you know darn well that holiday is going to be amazing, but you're going to have to pay the price of the pile of work on your desk when you get back. It's that kind of feeling, but all the time.
Yeah. Or
And
or or if you've suffered abuse. Yeah.
yes, oh, that next abuse is going to happen, or that next price that you have to pay, or the punishment, or whatever. So there's guilt,
Hmm.
there's all sorts of stuff going on. And so because I kept looking at it from the perspective of, I don't know why I'm clenching my teeth at night, because I have an amazing life. What have I got to be upset about, or afraid of, or angry at, or whatever? I've got this amazing life. So what was happening was I was rationalizing it, and the
Hmm.
rationalizing of it was pushing it out of the way and resisting it and keeping it buried until the other day. when I said something to Peter about when I'm clenching, it's like now it's like a whole body clenching. I said it because I do it with my fists too, because I could feel it in my hands when I wake up. This whole body clenching. So I'm like this at night. And I said to Peter, it's like I'm trying to hold on to something.
Mm,
Hold on to something. It's like it's not like stress. It's like a tension, and I'm trying to hold on to something. And he said these words, and this was then ding, the light bulb went on. He said, tension is the ego telling you that God is going to take something away from you.
mm,
And I went, oh, that's exactly it. I'm holding on to life because I think, oh, now I got everything I want. It's going to all be whipped away. And that's why I've been more conscious of my health and worried about dying or something being wrong with me or whatever it is. It's all tied into this. I will be punished for being happy, um, which is a deep, deep belief,
mhm,
and one that I have to allow to come to the surface, and one that I have to um, be okay with. And then you go to that place of, well, how can I be still in such a almost a muckier place than I was in before I started all this, became aware and
mhm,
started all this
mhm,
work. And then I read this thing by Pima Chodron, and it was about the in between place. And I think we're in the in between place until we die, because I don't think we ever reach the, you know, total enlightenment. But that in between place is when you are very aware of what's going on. You're very aware of your thoughts and your feelings and your emotions, and you can't push them away anymore. And it feels worse because it is so in your face and you are so aware of it, but there's no turning back. And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking that's, I think, what it's been like is that, you think, oh, I'm going to take care of all these issues, and then I'm going to be happy, happy, joy, joy, rainbows and unicorns for the rest of my life. And that very idea, that very fact of being more aware actually brings up a whole different bag of, can of worms. And um, and then the lesson, I think, is being okay with letting it come up. I think that's kind of the next big step, is that, okay, I'm feeling terrified. All right, let's explore that. Let's sit with it. Let's look at it. Let's allow it. Let's be with it instead of denying, hiding, resisting, pushing back. Um, when we're oblivious, it's, what do they say? I can't remember the saying. Ignorance is bliss.
mhm.
Looking back, you think, oh God, why did I ever start this? But
Yeah,
in a way, yeah, ignorance is a bit of bliss in that um, you don't have to work on, you don't see everything that's coming up. You're just sort of blindly going through life asleep, basically.
yeah,
But when you wake up, when you start to see what's really going on, when you start to go within, when you start to look self and know that that's what it's about, that it's not about what's happening in the outside world, then it brings on a whole new set of interesting things. I won't say problems, because I don't think they're problems. I think they're just a new way of dealing with and seeing things and being in the world. I hope
yeah.
that makes sense.
I think it's really amazing what you just shared. And wow, I was so turned on when you were explaining this before the show, and what when we're talking about show ideas for today. This is so huge to reveal, and it's something that we don't often, where we aren't aware of it. Um, and almost as you were speaking, I'm like, oh my God, now I see it in a new light. And you've shed some light on it for me. And it rings so true for me because it's all of a sudden I'm going like, when you read something great or when something gets um, it presented to you, and you're just like, oh my God, yes, absolutely. And it just starts happening to me as I start looking back, and behaviors I've done, behaviors people I've been intimate with have done, people who I've loved have done. And yeah, it is this crazy idea. And when you say go through life asleep, yeah, it's like we go through life in this channel that we feel comfortable in. And if we are to push even if it's a good thing, we push the upper limit of that channel, well, you just can't push the top without the bottom expanding as well. It's almost like they're on a hinge together. And the more you push up, the more this is going to move down too. And you're going to now operate within this bandwidth where before you're just like this. And it's why one thing Hannah said that I've always taken with me is that it's not about living, being healthy physically, emotionally, intellectually is not about living longer. It's about stopping numbing ourselves. And it just always stuck with me. And and that is why, we just feel comfortable in this channel. And when which is why when we want to dull ourselves, which is why we just want to go home and lay on the couch and watch TV and overeat or drink or do drugs or whatever. And we don't want to push it because we know how uncomfortable that we feel. And we know, and something that you were talking to is that why when my life got better, why when that drama of my first relationship and raising my kids and it was really chaotic and Peter comes into my life and I'm ready, I've worked on myself and then things just keep getting better and better. Why when things get better and better do I seem to have more stronger, intense um, breakdowns or upsets or an intense, uncomfortable feelings? And it's because, well, the bottom channel's going wider too. And more stuff is going to being brought out. And it can be almost a beautiful thing because your life is so much better. And then therefore now these things are safe to kind of come out. Where we've been holding them down and tamping them down and staying within a narrow channel of emotional experience. And so then they start coming up. You're like, oh my goodness, why did I, why did I even start? Ignorance is bliss. Why did I even start reading? Because now I'm having stuff come up all the time that I'm having to deal with. And it's like, well, if you want to experience more freedom, if you want to feel less constricted in a human life, and that's why I feel like so many people are struggling so badly with depression in our society, is because we're just in this tiny channel. And we know that's not what life is. We know that that isn't, we're not having tremendous relationships. We're not having tremendous sexual experiences. We're not having tremendous love experiences. We're not having tremendous life experiences. We're just living in this narrow bar. We're overtired. We work too much. We're not motivated. We're not creative. We're not doing anything amazing. We're just existing. And at some level, we feel that. Um, but the only way out is, not through ignorance, is through education and dealing with these things as they come up. And the more that you deal with them, the more that you can feel free and the more that you can be comfortable as the channel expands, the more wonderful you feel about life, the more awesome and passionate and creative you become, and the more that you can contribute to the world as it is and the world as it moves forward. And I just absolutely love what you're bringing up because I think it really speaks to what so many, including myself, have experienced. Is like when life gets better, well, it also gets harder. Sometimes there's a section of the internet or whatever it says, for people to be like, really depressed or feel real pain. It's because it was only intelligent people feel real pain. um, you know, and I think it's misled. I think it's mislabeled. But in a way, yes, the more things you look at, the more pain you're going to feel. And the key is not to dull, and the key is not to numb ourselves, and the key is to work through it, because the reward on the other end, the reward to live a wide bandwidth life, is so much greater. And I can speak to that, and I know that you can speak to that, even though the troughs are bigger. Experiencing life, understanding yourself more is well worth. It's a reward well worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's the peaks and the crests are become, in most things they want it to go from this like really quite high and low to more, of a straighter line. Like nobody can see my hands. I don't know why I'm doing that. But I feel like the deeper you go within yourself, the deeper the higher the peaks and the deeper the crests. And so when you hit that crest and you're in that low point, the key is to have practiced
Yes,
being in that place and being okay to be in that place
that's right.
and realizing it's not going to kill you to feel anger, hurt, depression, um, sadness, guilt, fear, whatever it is. That it is no different than feeling love, peace, happiness, joy, blah, blah, blah. It's just a different feeling. It's a different, your body has different reactions. It's just a different experience than feeling love. Instead of judging it and saying, well, the love and the peace and the happiness are good, that's where I want to be, and the guilt and fear and depression and sadness and hatred are bad, I don't want to be there. It's more like, when you're going along and you hit that valley, you say, another interesting experience for me to sit and explore. And when you're in that peak, another interesting experience for me to sit and explore. That's where we find that contentment. That's where we find that balance, that lovely, gentle place where we can be compassionate and loving towards ourselves, even in the depths of despair.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the key right there, is that yes, there will be greater troughs. There will be, as your life improves, there will be more stuff that comes up that has been unresolved. Of course, you were a kid, you had no idea, or you're a young adult and you had no education, of course. No, like emotional education. So of course, this stuff there's a lot of stuff sitting there waiting to come up when life gets better. And so when you go through those troughs, it's so critical that, we go through the work so that we can be more aware of it. So we know it's just a trough, that in an hour or two or a day or two, we're going to feel great again naturally. So having that confidence, picking up tools to deal with the trough, dealing with yourself with calmness because you just understand, and that confidence that you're going to come out. It's okay. It's okay to go through it. And so really it's just about having grace, being aware and having grace when you are in a trough. And it's just a kind thing to do to yourself. And boy, is it ever the kind thing to do to others, especially woe be to those who you're in intense loving relationships with, because when we don't have grace, when we're in a trough, that's when we get angry, that's when we get frustrated, that's when we sabotage, that's when we look to destroy both internally and externally, because we don't like being outside of our comfort zone.
Yeah. We're looking for the love and we don't realize it's always there.
Yeah, that's right too. You're absolutely right that too. And we do those things to test the other so that we can then feel safe. But that's not being kind. That's not being wise
And
or
that's not
mature
that's yeah,
or
that's not
enlightened.
yeah, you know,
Yeah, yeah, it's not their job.
which I know there's lots of people that would disagree with me on that, but um, that's fine.
It's always an inside job. um, well, that was excellent, and thank you so much for coming up with that. I think that was huge, and I'm really excited because it helped me see some things in a new way, and I'm going to take that forward from this show. And it's wonderful to do this show, and then especially when you get a big thing that I realized. So thank you, Bettina. That was really useful for me, and I'm sure it was useful to people watching. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Hmm.
It's a pleasure to share it.
How would you feel about finishing us off with a meditation today?
I always feel good about that.
Good.
So let's close our eyes. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. And another deep breath in and exhale. And as you sit in this place, see if you can recognize any emotions that may be sitting in your body right now. See if you can describe them. If you were to tell a story about them, what would they be? What would that story be? And if you're not a feeling person, if you're more of a thinking person, then try and look at some of the more negative thoughts that you're holding on to. Take a look at them. What's the story that you build around them? And if you're not a feeling or a thinking person, if you're a person who experiences, then maybe the physical body can give you hints as to what is happening. So just take a look at your body. Is there any tension at any place in your body? Are you feeling tight, or do you feel any pain, or do you feel any discomfort? And if that discomfort, what would the story be? Really allow the feelings or the thoughts or the physical discomfort to show you where it is that you could open up and allow, that you could explore and look with interest as opposed to judgment, where you could accept as opposed to dismissing or denying. Just sit in that space and allow the story to develop, to let it show you the way to what beliefs you may have that are causing you this discomfort, this judgment, this despair. Allow yourself the luxury, and I mean it, yes, the luxury, to feel everything, for that is the deepest part of your human experience. To experience everything open and engaging and loving. And when you're ready, wiggle your fingers and your toes and bring yourself back to the world.
Hmm. That was amazing, Bettina. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hmm. I always love you. You were the first person to introduce to me at the end of a meditation to wiggle my fingers and toes. I know I've brought it up a handful of times, and probably in personal conversations, maybe dozens of times with you. I just love that way of coming out of a meditation and reminding myself I'm in a body, and reminding myself, of in effect being grateful and being cognizant of good health while we have it. It's quite a gift.
Yes, it is.
Hmm. Well, thank you everybody for watching, and we'll see you all again next week.
Have a great week, everyone.